Quick explanation of the tiers here. Tier 0 is going to be core. These are the units that will probably shape the meta when it comes to building a team around certain characters, or there's going to be like maybe one standout character that's just so flexible that they go right into the tier 0 core category. Tier 0.5, listen, some of the best characters in the game. We didn't have 0.5 tier last time, but I think we need to have it this time. These are going to be some of the best characters you can have in your setup, and you're going to do wonders with them. Tier 1 is still a fantastic character, but maybe just a little bit underutilized currently. Maybe they need a little bit more cooking. Maybe I'm underrepresenting them as well, but a lot of the times you're still going to have a solid character in the tier 1 category. Tier 2 is going to be someone who's usable, but honestly, if you just used someone from the higher categories, you'd have a better time. And tier 3 is going to be a category of characters that I really do not recommend. Do you need that precious annulith or extra resources to pull right now? Well, we've got the power up you need. Head to U7Buy, your ultimate gaming hub for safe, fast, and cheap in-game top-ups as well as recharges. From Neverness to Everness to all your favorite titles, we've got you covered. Check the reviews for U7Buy on Trustpilot. They have an enormously high rank. U7Buy's Neverness to Everness direct top-up page lets you recharge instantly at a fraction of the cost elsewhere. If you take a look at the official in-store prices and compare them to what you can find on U7Buy, you can find things at a much cheaper value, going from so expensive to way cheap all at the same time. Plus, with U7Buy, not only are you going to get these discount, but they'll also deliver it in seconds. And while you're over there, make sure you use my code Josh at checkout for an extra discount off of everything else. This is going to be perfect for last minute pulls, monthly passes, or even surprising a fellow friend. 100% secure payments, instant delivery, and thousands of happy players. Bring the power of purchasing back to you. Click the link in the description and visit U7Buy, recharge fast, save more, and keep exploring the ever-changing city of Neverness to Everness. So let's start with the new character. Let's start with Chaos. Now, this is going to be a double-edged sword for him. You can put him in a couple of different spots here. Let me explain this. Now, his best free-to-play option team is also his best team, in my opinion, right now. So you're going to be using Chaos as well as Hotori. Now, those are going to be the only 2 5-stars in this team. And you're going to put in Haniel so you have access to the stain reaction. She's also going to be doing buffs for your teams, giving you the Hooti buffs, giving you crit damage plus on top of that if she's A6. And then last but definitely not least is going to be Esper 0, the main character, so you can have access to the very important Remora buff on demand. Hotori is here because it extends the Remora buff to 12-second duration, vastly increasing his own enhanced Remora passive and giving free crit rate to the team. This is like the team to run with him, and why is it a double-edged sword? So here's the thing with Chaos. So now the plus side is only one other 5-star character. You can even use your limited, pit selector thing. If you're a new player, you still have it hanging out for you. And then you just need 2 4-stars. Haniel only needs to be like A2 technically to have the full uptime duration on Hooti. And then Esper 0 is going to get their own stuff for free. So where is the downside on this? If the upside is just it's super easy to play, it's very free to play friendly, what is the downside? Now the downside of basing a team around Chaos right now is he doesn't have very many people that work well with this sort of setup, right? If you want another Psyche support character in there, your only other option right now is going to be Fadia, but Fadia really wants to have access to Nova for her own passive. That's where a lot of her value comes from. Could you swap out Haniel and put Fadia in there? Sure, but it's not nearly as effective as a Haniel team. So if you take the Hotori out and you look at the 2 supports that you really need to pair Chaos with, well, Esper 0 is part of the Bloom team. She's the core member of the Bloom team, so you can get Bloom reactions as many times as possible, usually paired with the likes of Hotori as well. And if you take Esper 0 away from the Hotori Bloom team, it is not nearly as effective in that regard. So you kind of close yourself off of Bloom teams if you're using Chaos as your sole main on DPS character. That's just kind of how it is. The other downside is that you're also stealing a character from a different elemental party wheel, right? If you're running some sort of Nova-based or Discord-based team, if you're trying to make 2 teams for something like Train or other content in the future, you're stealing the best support right now in the game for that team, right? Her enhanced Nova passive is insane. she just fits so well in there. And so if you're taking both of these away to build just one team with Chaos, you're kind of left with like a very small amount of a character pool to work with to build another team, because you can't really build Bloom that well. You can sort of kind of build like a Discord team and just slot Fadia in that team, right? Do something like Fadia plus Lacrimosa plus Sakiri, and then like another person in here, right? You can throw in like Daffodil if you want to, Viking if you want to, something like that. You can throw those three in there with another character, but you're not able to use the offensive power boost of Haniel in this sort of setup. You could also be forced into doing something that is basically straight up a hexed team where you just run like a bunch of hexed characters, right? Jinwan, all this other stuff, and just like run like hex stuff with like this, just go like mono hexed. You can do that with that as your second team as well. So the downside of Chaos is that he kind of eats into too many characters for too many different elemental wheels right now. I think if you're only looking for just one team, is it a good team? Is it a free-to-play team? Does it do good damage? Yeah, he's absolutely tier 0 in that team setup. However, if you're also thinking about needing to build a second team, currently he is a little bit of a liability when you're building around your account with him in mind for that secondary team. So you can put him in T0 core, or you can put him in 0.5, depending on which sort of circumstances that you're thinking about. What is the thing that you're thinking about? Are you really looking at 8 characters that you can use, or just the 4? So for right now, we're gonna put him in 0, but if you're thinking about like what 8 characters can I build 2 good teams around, he might restrict you to the point where your second team is kind of gook and your clear times are longer and the game's just harder overall for certain things. But the game's not that difficult right now, and so we're gonna put him into T0 currently. Okay, all right, now we're through that. What else? Now there is some stuff we need to talk about here, and the rest of them shouldn't take really as long as he did. So we have access to MC0. I think is going to be T0 for a long time. We've said this forever and ever and ever, just the ability to just Esper cycle whenever you want, get actions to Remora, get actions to Bloom teams. She's core in all of these cycle focused teams, and they're not really going anywhere for the time being, because we just talked about how much of a downside it was for Chaos to be stealing this character potentially away from other teams for you. So T0, core member, 1000%. Same thing with Hotori. She's the core member of the Blossom team. It is very strong. We don't need to talk too much about it. She didn't go up or down in the rankings. She got like another partner. Technically, she's a little bit stronger, has another team if you want to interact with some sort of Chaos Hotori team as well. And so both these characters technically got a little bit better this patch. But I'm not making another, like, I'm not making like God tier above T0 core. It doesn't make any sense, all right? Now, here's another one. Lacrimosa, straight up T0. We've talked about it before. Very flexible. You can play in a lot of different ways. You can do burn focused teams. You can play her in quick swap teams. The fact that you don't have to play her on a quick swap team opens up a lot of other characters like Fadia that work very well now in a non-quick set setup. Fadia, for instance, I had her when it was first released, like down in tier 2. She didn't really have exactly what she wanted as team members to really abuse her enhanced Nova passive, but now you can run like Lacrimosa plus Daffodil plus Fadia plus Haniel all at the same time and really get in on that Fadia passive, built for just big max HP 70k etc plus, and just do massive AoE damage because you're able to proc Nova over and over and over and over. And even if you're not super Nova focused, you can run like a double Chaos plus Fadia team and then put Sakiri in there as well and still have access to enhanced Nova on demand, still do Discord. She actually has a very good couple of teams compared to before. I have her in 0.5. I think some people put her in 1, but I think she does have a solid spot and she is part of some very strong teams right now. We don't need to talk too much about Sakiri. Obviously, T0 core, very good for dot focus teams, just has insane attack buffs and crowd control as well. There's only so many characters that exist in this game currently that can gather enemies together, and she is one of them. She is a core member of so many parties, and even if you want to say like, well, she's just a support, you're not ever building a team around her, no one's ever unhappy to put Sakiri in their party, okay? So she is obviously going to stay right into T0 core. I might catch some flack for this one. I think Jinwan, still to this day, and will be for a long time to come, be a tier 0 core member in the anima department. Right now, she's in the Blossom focus team. I actually have a mix of a Blossom plus Hex focus team that I run a lot of the times. It's these four right here: Zero, Hotori, Sakiri, and Jinwan. You put her on a bunch of cycle intensity. She buffs up the damage you're getting from Hexed, so she doesn't actually lose a lot of personal damage. And her Blossoms, well, are absolutely insane because she's the only anima character for your two Cosmos characters to interact with. So you're hitting for like 7,000 plus damage Blossoms over and over and over during time stop, and they're all over the place. And she has crowd control for you, and she doesn't demand to be on field all that much. So it's just really good. It's just nutters. She's a nutters character. Now next is going to be Bai-King. Bai-King gets a lot of flack, and I think a lot of players think he's like super hard to play, and he Sudokus himself all the time. He drains his own health. He's not that difficult to play. You just got to read the skills a little bit. He can be played in a quick swap style as a duo DPS, like a duo DPS. You can play him with Lacrimosa if you want to. In a quick swap team, if you have the Lacrimosa A6, you can make him as your own main DPS in a Discord focus team. We all know the power of that with Daffodil. And a lot of players like kind of sleep on Bai-King. He also has some of the best spammable gathering abilities. You just long press his basic attack, and he'll just hit him with the Scorpion, get over here. And in these quick swap teams where you're swapping around using everyone's skills, you just swap into Bai-King and use that charged attack basically in the middle of all of your swap-ins, and just keep Scorpion people into your team, so you're cleaving them with every single thing you're doing. It is very, very good. The one thing I will say about him is if you don't like that playstyle, that's going to be a negative for you. He's got a couple of good teams that are in the Discord focused. He's also got a couple of great burn focused teams, right? Damage over time focused teams, since he's a damage over time focused character himself in some way. So he works very well with Sakiri. He works very well with Lacrimosa because they all have inherent synergy with each other. However, I'm going to put him in 0.5 for this one reason, because as soon as you're missing literally any character in a Bai-King team, in a Bai-King setup, if you're missing Daffodil or Lacrimosa or Sakiri, right? If you're missing any of these very powerful characters, he kind of quickly falls down the tier list in that way. Also, there's so many different ways to play, chaos focus, not chaos the character, but chaos elements focus teams, right? You can do like Lacrimosa plus Daffodil, like we talked about with Fadia, double psyche, right? You can also do the Fadia thing and ignore Bai-King and put someone else in there like Adler. He doesn't necessarily need to be in a Discord team for you to get good effect out of him. I think he's a solid 0.5 for all of these reasons, and I'll leave him in that role. So I'm going to leave him in 0.5. I think that's where he deserves to go. Now, Hathor, for a long time, I had Hathor in 1 for a while when the game first launched, because she just basically had like one team, and it was like the charge team, right? It was like main character plus Hathor plus like Jinwan and Denali, right? It was just like some random charge team where you put like a Chiz in there, right? Everyone knows the Chiz charge team. She was just kind of there. She did damage. She was fine. She gave you a little bit of crit rate, but now she has an extremely powerful slot that makes her Remora enhanced passive, well, a necessity, and that's going to be in the team with Chaos. Since she is in a T0 team, a lot of people are like, she is a T0 character. Right now, I think she's just kind of like leeching off the fact that she just randomly buffs someone else's damage on one of their skills by like 300%, basically. So it's, hey, do you want to do like 50,000 damage or 200,000 damage? Since she just exists in that team, yeah, sure, that's a big damage buff. So we're going to move her up to 0.5 just because of how well she plays with Chaos, period. And this is a cool thing about this patch and what's been going on in NTE, in my opinion, is not a lot of characters really feel like they need to get pulled down the tier list. There was some at the start where like I just didn't feel like they did enough, but now there's getting to be more characters that they interact with in a positive light, and people, in my opinion, are getting pulled up the tier list that weren't there before. And that's a big benefit for Hathor in this circumstance. Some other characters here, well, guess what? You would think like, oh, we got a new Lakshana character in the form of Chaos, dude. Maybe Skia is going to help out here. Skia doesn't really work very well with Chaos at all. Chaos wants to maintain that field time as much as possible. Chaos wants to make sure that you know exactly how long your Remoras are lasting, especially if you're using someone like Hathor. And a lot of the time, I will put a character like in tier 2 at the minimum if they can at least sub in for another character in that role, right? If you could swap in Ski and be like, oh yeah, I can kind of do what Hathor is doing in this Chaos team, he'd be like at minimum a T2 character. In my opinion though, he doesn't really have any other reason to exist. He was T2, I think, before for me, because it was like, well, if you didn't have Hathor and you needed a Lakshana character for your charge team, you could fit him in there. But now that there is another Lakshana character who is like way better than him, I'm gonna have to put him down in T3, because like you don't really need to use him in any place, shape, time, form, party. So we're just gonna kind of put him in what I guess the tier was described as, which is gonna be T3 for me. Now we need to cover the good old Nanali. Now Nanali has always been in between 0 and 0.5 for me, and it's not like a damage thing, it's a definition thing. So T0 is the core member of the party, right? You have to have her for the party to really work. Do you have to have Nanali for a Blossom team to work? No, you don't. But does she have a defined role in the Blossom team? 100%. She is the best on-field damage dealing driver in the Blossom team. So whether you think that is the definition of core or not is going to depend on whether you agree if she's in 0.5 or in 0. The reason I always keep her in 0 for right now is her damage is good. Her damage is great. She is the best driver for that Blossom team right now. And in addition to that, she also does have a second team, which is like the Hex team, where you just go like Jinwan with her attachments and Sakiri with the dot damage buff focus, right? You build one of these characters up to have a lot of cycle intensity, usually like Sakiri for higher hex damage, which is this gonna buff the Nanali as well as the Jinwan up. So there's a ton of different things you can use her with. I guess a ton is not really, it's like there's at least 2 really good teams that Nanali has a solid core facility with. So I'm gonna leave her in T0 for right now. So this brings up the question for one of our last remaining anima characters, which is like Mint. Now, Mint is a character, in my opinion, doesn't belong in T.5, doesn't belong in T1, because if you're putting together a team where you're like, all right, what does Mint do for me? She's an anima character, she does damage, she comes in, you can use her as a main DPS if you want. She's got like a Blossom passive that makes her Blossoms do AoE damage, so she's kind of like in the Blossom team. However, the one thing that just keeps her out of T1 for me, or even 0.5, nowhere near 0.5, is the fact that like her role is that on-field sort of damage dealing driver. Her Blossom passive is fine. You don't really care if she's in a Blossom team too much, but if you need an anima driving damage dealing character and you don't have access to Nanali, you can use Mint in a lot of those Blossom focused teams. And that is the definition of tier 2 for me. If you can be like, all right, well, I'm missing this character with this job, this role, I need someone to fill that in. Are they good enough to fill that in? Are they the best fill-in character for that role? That's a T2 character for me, and that is where Mint is going to go for me in that regard as well. This is going to be the same thing that holds up, in my opinion, for Aurelia. She's got a lot of cool teams that you can build her around. If you want to, like, I want to build an Aurelia team, right? Well, you're going to be focusing on a few different things. You're going to be focusing on buffing up her damage, giving her the proper supports. And if you look at, well, what she is, she's a Psyche element character. What are the proper supports for a Psyche element character? Are you trying to do Discord stuff? In which case, well, you're looking at putting Lacrimosa or Daffodil in your team. There's a lot of characters that work well with Lacrimosa and Daffodil, right? Okay, you want to put Sakiri in your team because you want access to Discord. There's a lot of very good, right, teams that Sakiri can be put in. So if you're building a team entirely around Aurelia, it's probably because you're missing an on-field driver for a Discord-focused team. You're going to be using some of these elemental characters like Chaos Element and Incantation Element in your parties, which means that you probably are basically, your Aurelia team is going to look very similar to like a Bi-King team or a Lacrimosa team or like a main DPS Daffodil team, which means, in my opinion, she is that tier 2 category because she just slots in. T2 doesn't mean that they're bad. It means that they have a definitive role and they are good at that role. There's probably just somebody that's like quite a bit better than them in that role, if you catch my drift there. You could argue that she goes up to T1, but I would think that I would leave her at T2 for right now. Now, T1 looking a little empty, you would say, and I want to put Chiz right into T1. This is going to be like A0 versus A3 versus A6. I'm not counting A6 Chiz right now. You could probably have it. A lot of players aren't going to have it. It takes a lot of funds. You have to buy so many properties and enhance all the cars. You got to buy multiple cars. So I don't think it's fair to rate Chiz at A6 right now and everyone else at like A0. It's dumb to me. A3 is a little bit of a stretch. And even at A3, her game plan is just, I do damage to the character. In a lot of the teams, her only real team is some sort of charged focus team, because you don't really have a lot of crazy ways to buff her up. You just kind of want to make sure that she has access to her ultimate as much as possible. You do a bunch of damage with the grain drop on her skills, and then you just kind of reiterate that over and over again. But if you look at what's going on inside of a Chiz team, there's not a lot of crazy synergy there. It's just like, oh, the Chiz team before was like Hotori, Chiz, and the main character in Gen 1, and it's like, you can make so many teams off of that, right? So she is probably by far de facto, like definitive, the T1 character. She just does her stuff very, very well. You can use her in train, use her by herself, as true with any other DPS. Baiken can do it, Lacrimosa can do it, you can do it with Aurelia. You can do pretty much the solo train thing with the 50% buff. On most characters, she's a amazing character. She just doesn't really synergize a crazy amount with a lot of other characters out here. If you were to put like a team together, if you look at the core tier here, the 0.5 tier here, and you're like, all right, I'm going to build a Chiz team. You can 1000% do that. If you go, all right, I'm going to build a Chiz team, and then you compare what your Chiz team looks like to what like a top tier Blossom team looks like or something, just take the Chiz out and swap it for one other character, and you're just one character away from like a T0 team, and it's Chiz herself that's preventing you from making that T0 team. So I'm gonna have to leave her in T1. Haniel, even at A2, you can go all the way up to A6. A2, you have the duration and cooldown reduction on getting access to Hotori as much as possible and her buffs. Fantastic there. Works super well in any sort of Discord focused team. Got stronger in conjunction with Lacrimosa being released, because now she has even more parties that she wants to be playing with. Got technically another buff because there's another top tier team in the form of Chaos with her, and that's even at just A2. You get her to A6, you get a free little crit damage buff on top of that as well. And just kind of like Sakiri, she is one of the best like offensive supports that we have access to in the game right now, and I think it's a fantastic place for her to be. Now, sadly, talking about supports, I know we're gonna get some little boy defenders up in here, but I cannot think of any team in NTE where I go, man, if Edgar was in here, I'd be jamming. I don't think of a single team like that at all. In fact, I think the further I keep Edgar away from my party, the better my team gets, right? He's just there to heal and do some stuff. There's so many other things we can do right now. And also on top of that, he could get better in the future if content actually requires some sort of massive amounts of healing, right? We're getting a new 5-star anima support, possibly side healing character coming out in, I don't know, the next patch or so. And we'll see how the game trends towards needing and not needing healing. Right now, it's just do a bunch of damage, crowd control enemies, don't get hit, win the game. Not a lot of reason to bring a bunch of healing out there. If you're struggling with getting hit too much, you're also probably struggling with defeating the enemy and the allocated time limit on some of these, you know, higher end PvP or PvE like endgame activities that are all timer based, and he's not helping you that much there. Daffodil. Now, Daffodil used to be T0 Super Giga Core. I moved her down to 0.5 when Lacrimosa was released, strictly off of one reason, and that is because, well, by definition, if you wanted to play any sort of chaos interaction team before Lacrimosa was released, she was the only character in the game that was chaos element, and that made that she was just T0 by definition, because if you're playing any Discord team, you had to have her. That's not a truth now anymore. She's got a little bit of competition. And at A0, she can be a little bit of wonky to play a tiny bit. I don't think so personally, but I know there's a lot of sentiments out there about that, and getting access to like 2 of your awakenings definitely makes her like an A0 character, a T0 character once again. I have her in 0.5. I had her in 0.5 last time. I'm leaving her in 0.5. She didn't get better. She didn't get worse. She's still just quite amazing out there. And then last but not least, my man Adler. If we're looking for supports out there and you're looking for incantation supports, well, you have access to Sakiri and you have access to Adler. Adler's mainstay thing right now is going to be a character that slots into that Sakiri role. If you need a character that is of his element, you're looking for like a Discord team, you need a incantation support for your Discord team, he slots in there quite well. The other thing about this though, him slotting in, is he doesn't necessarily do the same thing as an incantation support that Sakiri does. Sakiri's there for crowd control and damage buffing with her attack buffs and stuff like that, and defense shred and all this other stuff that she does. Adler's just like a sub DPS, gives a barrier, he's fine, and I think I'm gonna leave him strictly in T2 for right now for that reason, because he fits that definition of the, you can just definitely slot this character in. Are they nearly as good? Not really, but they will still fulfill that role for you. You could put him into 1 if you wanted to, if you're a big Adler lover, but a lot of the times the teams we're making right now involve this side of the elemental wheel, right? We're looking at anima characters and blossom characters and Lakshana characters. Whereas if you're looking for an incantation support, well, you kind of have two, right? You have any sort of Discord focused team, in which case you really only need 1 incantation character. And you are also looking at a Hex focused team, in which case you only really need 1 incantation character. So in my opinion, he's really just like a holdover, a hold in for Sakiri. You can put him in some sort of like burn focused team with Lacrimosa plus Sakiri plus King plus Adler, and that works out pretty well as well. But as much as I'm trying to defend this man, I think he belongs in T2 right now. Although I could see him being like T1 if you're like a big burn focus character fan. I don't know. Give me a break. But I think this is kind of where we're sitting right now with the tier list. If you want to compare it to it's Pridwin or something, you can go throw that up. We looked at their list, and I had some things to say about that. So if you're interested in that video, go check it out, guys. Make sure you leave a like, because it helps against the algorithm gods. Also, like, I just want to let's see what happens, right? Just leave a like, and that's it. You made it to the end of the video. You must have had a little bit of fun. Okay, God bless out there, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.